All right, welcome to Health Second Opinion. Dr. Chad McDill here with you. Excited about another week of the philosophy that can save and change lives, and really want to continue to empower you with the knowledge that can do exactly that. But the fact is that without implementation, the knowledge is useless. And so the idea here is for you to be able to take those action steps in a way that will help you to make decisions in the way you want to manage your health care. And the fact is that so many people are in this paradigm where they're simply looking at treating symptoms, and then when the symptoms are gone, they believe to be healthy. And that, I was talking with this MD the other day, and we were outside at watching our sons play flag football, and he said, after doing this for 20 some odd years, I don't believe that people want to be healthy anymore. He said, it's sad. He said, they don't want to be healthy. They just want to feel good. And it was so amazing to hear someone else coming from, quote unquote, the opposite side of the fence. When we talk about health, it's the same. It's the fact that we're both aware, whether you're an MD or a DC or a PT or whatever you want to put behind your name. Health is when the body is functioning at a state of optimum physical, mental, and social well-being. And feeling good doesn't mean that's happening. And he was so disappointed in the fact that this, like I said, for how many ever years he had been practicing as an MD in the hospital, that and that he said it's a really sad fact. They don't want to be healthy. They just want to feel good. And with that thought, that's the biggest thing. It's do we give up? And so the question becomes do you give up? Which one do you want? Do you really want to be healthy, or do you want to wait and treat the symptoms of disease? Because once the body is sick and weakened, the opportunity for long-term illness, permanent impairment, death, all become much greater. And so there's this, and it's one of the sad things is that we've been indoctrinated that was, you waited and you treated the symptoms. Okay, someone gets sick, they identify it as strep throat, and then the treatment is a round of antibiotics or whatever the MD would say, and then that's how you treat it. And then once the bacteria are dead, then you are well, and that's how we define it. But the fact is that when we look here, let's see if I can make this work for me. This is really where we have to stay focused, that 0% is death, 100% is health. Most people don't realize that when the symptoms kick in, they've already lost a great deal of function, whether that's 60 or 70 or what. In some people's case, like a cardiac patient who finds out they're not healthy by having a heart attack, their percentage might be at 99% occlusion of a coronary artery, and therefore their health is completely compromised before the first symptom kicks in. And so when we think about these things, it's not, I would love to make sure that this is an opinion, even though it is my show, this is a fact. This is a page out of the Medicare manual. There's your documentation for it, your quote citation. Care that seeks to prevent disease, promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of life is not considered medically necessary. That's from the Medicare manual. You can look it up for yourself. And so it is documented that the government's definition of what's considered medically necessary, which is what they'll pay for, is that it's not anything to do with health. So we have to understand that. And you have to step back and let that sit for a second, because it's almost unfathomable. You really don't, what? That doesn't make sense. I thought they wanted me to be healthy. And that what they were paying for was going to make me healthy, and they wouldn't be paying for it unless it worked. And then, my God, what have I been getting? And that is the treatment of symptoms and disease. And so we have to be aware of these things, because you cannot fix a problem with the current level of thinking that created it. So if you are dealing with the cardiac, let's stay with that theme. If you're dealing with coronary artery disease, or just not just that, just cardiovascular disease, then the lifestyle and the many different factors, because stress can be a huge cause. We all know the type A, right? Higher risk of heart attack and stroke. And then, lack of exercise, the type of food choices, the amount of toxicity that you get, risk factors, obesity, diabetes, smoking, all the list goes on and on. And so the more of those that you have and that you maintain for a longer period of time creates the environment, whether you can feel it or not, that is generating whatever the disease that is being diagnosed is. And the same thing goes for cancer. The same thing goes for all diseases, that it is a certain amount of physical, chemical, and emotional stresses that put the pressure on the body and create that internal environment to where the body can no longer compensate for that. And that lack of compensation and the ability to not create more healthy cells than are becoming toxic and dying, that's when the body starts to go downhill. And so when we put the body in the environment that allows it to create more healthy cells and get rid of the toxicity and produce a better environment, then we start the reversal thereof, whatever the disease process is. And then there has to be this illumination in your mind that says that sick cells don't heal. They die. But don't worry. Healthy cells die too. And every cell in your body has a lifespan, right? I mean, heart cells live for approximately 90 days and then they die. And you don't worry about it, because before they die, they divide and they try to keep all the junk in one side and they bottle it up or try to get the top environment as little toxic as possible. And under mitosis happens, the cell divides, bam, the new cell's brand new DNA and organelles and all the little things like mitochondria. And it's this new cell and it takes the place of the old cell. Or if there's damage to a cell and it dies quickly without programmed cell death from gene p52, then if that doesn't happen that way, then the cells around it are signaled to divide and they fill in the void for that dying cell or wherever there was injury. If that takes place at a ratio that is better than the rate of cell death, we have healing in life. So healing isn't the cell getting unsick. It is the replacement of that with a new cell. So knowing that, if the environment in which that cell, the new cell, is being produced, it's brand new, it's pristine, it's amazing, it's a brand new cell. If that environment is toxic still, then that cell will get toxic too. And then it will die from whatever the toxicity or deficiency is. Remembering that the environment that every cell lives in, every tissue, every organ, every gland, has an optimum homeostasis, a set point that would give it the best longevity and the least amount of stress, physical, chemical, and emotion. And so what causes these stresses are deficiencies, toxicities, or a lack of control, a lack of nerve supply to tell it how to interact with the rest of the cells and the tissue and the organ and how those organs interact with the rest of the body. This is how the whole body has homeostasis, not just cellular homeostasis or tissue, organ, whatever. So when we look at environment and the deficiencies and cities, it's about how are those and how's the control. And then if that's optimum, we have health. If it's less than optimum, we begin the downward spiral towards disease. But it's really a dis-ease. It is a lack of harmony. And it's that lack of harmony that allows all the processes to not work as good as they could. And therefore, there's this accelerated loss of function. And that accelerated loss of function then spills over into the other areas, and it affects the rest of the body because every part has a job. You know, it's not like we're just born with spare parts, although you couldn't tell the person who's taken out the gallbladder that, or the, removal of a kidney or the whatever. So many people think we have spare parts now. Oh, there's two of them. We'll just take one, or whatever. And you also cannot convince me. But this is about you convincing you. If your body was created, and we know this to be true, blue zones around the country are showing that people regularly live well over 100 and are high functioning. And these blue zones are the places that have the highest concentration of centenarians and around the world. And so there's one out in California, and there's several all over the world, 13, I believe. Be exact. And so when we think about that, if it's designed to last that long, you cannot convince me that the gallbladder was only designed to last 40 years. Doesn't make sense. Not to me. So it means that that person's body was in an environment that it continued, and the gallbladder was not allowed to regenerate itself at a rate. So it wore out faster. Just like, I love the joke, this old dude came in here and he was like totally mad at his orthopedic surgeon because he went in. He said, dude, my knee's hurting. What's going on? And took some x-rays. He looked at it and he said, you're just old. And he said, well, yeah, I mean, I get that. I am old. But the fact is that my other knee is the same age as this one, and it doesn't hurt and it doesn't have any problems. So if it was just age, so tell me what's wrong with my knee and what caused it so that I can fix it. And MD had no, way to tell him. So what did he do? He left. He came here. And we talked about how his spine and pelvis and how his whole gait and how everything had been out of alignment and what he could still do to fix that and that what he couldn't do to fix it. And then we worked on it for long enough for him to gain a function and provide the environment for that knee to do some healing. And now no knee replacement. But we didn't treat the knee. It wasn't about treating the pain. It was about dealing with and removing the interference to the body's expression of life. So does that make sense to you? So as we go through and look at things, that's why the whole premise of chiropractic is so key. And let's see if we can find a little bit darker slide. Anyway, it's not quite as bright. Now it's a little better. The key is that we are here to remove interference to the expression of life. And that's it. And it is about the philosophical understanding that, and I guess it would be the scientific understanding as well, that the nervous system is in control of all other aspects of health. Didn't make the mold. It's just the way God made us. And so since He created us to have a nervous system that is controlling and coordinating the rest of the body. Sorry about that. Then we have to operate in that mold. And so that's the chiropractic's a priori. Number one is that we're optimizing the brain-body connection through optimizing and maintaining the mechanical integrity of the spine so that we have the straight from front to back and the curves from the side. And this optimizes that brain-body connection that controls and coordinates the rest of the function of the body. And by doing that and then optimizing it, getting it back to normal, then maintaining it during the duration of someone's life, this is how chiropractic is allowing the body to, or helping the body help. It's that we're removing interference to what already is. So there's a great statement inside of chiropractic that is, nature needs no help, it just needs no interference. And this is the key difference between doctors of chiropractic and all other people. It's not just that we're a drugless profession. It's not just that we aren't a treatment profession. It's not just that we don't, diagnose these things. It's that we look at the body as it already has the wisdom and has the self-healing capability already innately born in it. It does it on its own. The same way it did to create the body and the same way it did when it was born, and maintains blood pressure and these things. If we interference to the expression of that life force, then the body automatically heals and functions at a better rate. And we have to start with the nervous system because it sets up the environment and maintains the environment for all other systems from the moment of development or conception all the way on through till death. And so, but then there's this acceptance of the fact that we must kind of look at the cause of the cause, right? So a breakdown in the body's ability to regenerate itself is the cause of the problem. Whether that's nervous system interference, whether it's toxicity, whether it's deficiency, or whether, those are the three things, right? And the environment becomes more and more toxic, totally in every way, not just, toxicity as we think of it from a chemical standpoint, but toxic emotionally, toxic spiritually, toxic everything. The toxicity raising in the body is one aspect that puts a limiting factor on the body's ability to regenerate itself. Well, then there is the deficiency that minimizes the building blocks and the environment available to rebuild itself. So if you're wanting to build your house and you don't have the right materials, you run out of screws or run out of lumber or whatever you need, then boom, that's limiting your ability to get the job done. Same thing goes with nutritional deficiencies or hydration deficiencies or all of these other minerals and things that we must have supplied to us. So a lot of times people will look at someone who's obese and they will say, man, that person is overfed. They are. They have too many calories. But the fact is they're actually starving. They are starving for nutrition. Their body is devoid of certain things and it continues to signal hunger until the body gets so out of balance from the amount of leptin that is being produced by the amount of body fat that brain becomes insensitive to leptin, which is the hormone from fat that signals back to the brain that says, I have enough fat, I'm satiated, stop eating. Just in the same way that the diabetic becomes toxic with carbohydrates from overusing carbohydrates in their environment. It's so funny. We were out and about. I'll give her, her credit for this. It's so funny. We're standing around the fire out after trick or treating, and Keena said, "Look down, and there was a piece of sugar." Daughter was like, "Oh, look at this piece, Mom! Look at this piece of sugar. I'm gonna eat it." And Keena looked at me and said, "You know what the difference between cocaine and refined sugar is?" I said, "Well, I hope this is a joke, but yeah, tell me." And she said, "Yeah, well, cocaine's not killed nearly as many people as sugar." And it was both hilarious and tragic all at the same time. So much so that it's stuck in my brain. And here I am talking about it on the show, is that wow, the reality is that, you know, the amount of people who die from diabetes and who die from the cardiovascular disease caused by diabetes and all of these things. And then you look at that throughout history and then worldwide. And then you look at the terrible stats of cocaine use, and then bam, but you do the comparison and wow, you're right. The difference is probably in the tens of millions more people die from this. And so we have to be, but it's, you know, we have to be aware of it to change it. And so when we think about our perspective, our philosophy is that we're trying to produce a less toxic environment. We're trying to remove interference from the body to allow that expression of life that happens without our trying or helping or anything. It does it on its own if we provide that environment. And so let's talk about, you know, I want to keep revisiting this in case some folks haven't seen as many in the recent past about this. This is a study compared active people with sedentary people and looked at those that exercised at 150 minutes or more of moderate to vigorous activity every week, 150 minutes, 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day. And compared those to the inactive that exercised 10 or less. And when they looked at that, those that exercised 10 minutes or less a week and then were had COVID or contracted COVID, then those that exercised 10 minutes or less were 226% more likely to be hospitalized, 173% more likely to go to the ICU, and 149% more likely to die. That's profound, right? And you know, this is actually this is from lowers risk severe exercise more lowers the risk of COVID-19 study, and the citation is from PubMed. So the idea is that if we just took just that stat, just that knowledge, and we said everyone needs to get outside and exercise 150 minutes a week, because what if we mandated that? We could reduce the risk. Great deal. If anything was going to be mandated, shouldn't we mandate healthy practices? Like, well, you know what? You got to exercise so many minutes a week. And you have to reduce your sugar, because if a 181-pound person eats more than 75 grams of sugar or carbs, simple carbs that break down into sugar in a single meal, it suppresses the immune system by 50% for the next 5 hours. And that raises your levels of susceptibility and therefore increases your risk of death. What if we said, you know what, everyone free of charge will be provided with regular quarterly vitamin D testing, because we know that optimum vitamin D levels will reduce the risk of severe outcomes from COVID-19. And we provided that. What about that? Because we know it's true. And those would be building health, allowing the body to have less deficiency, because it's not the vitamin D that fixes the problem. It's how the white blood cells interact, and that when they have optimum levels of vitamin D. It's not the exercise that kills COVID. It's the body, when it's given that much exercise every week, is optimal. It's functioning more optimally. And then it reduces all those other things. It uses up the blood sugar. It reduces obesity. It reduces the risk factors. It improves the environment. It allows the body to have what it needs to optimize its function. So, how much more could that be? And I'm going to leave you with this. If, simple concept, every person on the planet from the moment they're born to the moment they die would have more life, better quality of life, if they had a properly functioning spine and nerve system, is close to 100% the entire life. If that resonates with you and you believe that that makes sense, and then you can text your question, or you can or here we go. Here's how you sign up for a new patient appointment. Call the office, let us know that you want to become a part of the office that is trying to help people promote health instead of treating disease. I hope it makes sense to you. I hope we're allowed to be a blessing in your life, and look forward to seeing you back here next week. Same station.